Hi and welcome. My name is Mike and I'm the founder of Motimake. We provide online tools for making custom fit clothing and patterns. And with me today, I have Christina Albeck of WardRobeByMe. She has a Facebook page with a huge number of followers, as long as an e-commerce site, WardRobeByMe.com, and also sells on Etsy under the same name. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you very much.
So I'm super excited to have you here. I know you have 20 years of experience working in the fashion and pattern making world.
I went to live in my youth, in my 20s. I lived in California, where I went to fashion school at West Valley College, just a small community college. And I studied fashion there. And I quickly found out that even though I loved the designing part as well, I adored the pattern making. So when I graduated from the college, I started working in San Francisco at Esprit as a pattern maker. And I worked there for a couple of years before I moved back to Denmark, where I started working and teaching pattern making. So from I graduated school and until now, the pattern making has been my main focus area for my career.
Great, that's impressive. And I guess that first job, were you able to quickly graduate and find a good fit and jump right in, or was that a difficult process, going from fresh out of college and into this new world of pattern creating?
It was a difficult jump, definitely, and I had to start at the bottom. But I was really fortunate to meet a very, very talented pattern maker. His name was, he's still alive. His name is Charles Castellano, and he is from New York and had been working with great makers like Donna Karan and Ann Taylor. And he could make like a blazer jacket in 30 minutes, simply using these steps and rules based on the body measurements. Wow. And I was so fascinated by his skills, and I became his apprentice, you could say. And he was very, very interested in helping young pattern makers learning this set of skills. Yeah. But he didn't know how to make patterns on a computer.
Right.
So at Esprit, we had computers already back then. This was back in 1992 or 93. And so I was determined to take his method of pattern making and applying it to using it on the computer. Gotcha. So that way, he felt like he got something out of it too. So we had a really great working relationship, and I learned so much from him.
And how long would you say under his tutelage did it take you to really feel comfortable and feel like you had reached a level where, you could do this on your own?
I'm not there yet. I mean, I work with pattern making almost every day, and I still learn. But of course, many of the basic skills have become much more like it's on my backbone. I know exactly which measurements are going to work and in which ratios. But I still get challenged by talented designers that create and figure out new ways of doing things. But I think becoming really comfortable as a pattern maker, it takes many years, maybe as much as 8 or 10 years of doing it every day and working with the skills.
So what is your design process when you're sort of working through a project?
I tend to work on garments that focus on flattering the female body. That is my sole concern when I make patterns. I've worked with many designers that are much more focused on a concept than focused on what really suits the female figure. So once I decide what I want to make, I just draft it and make it and sew it up, and then I correct it and fit it until I have it exactly the way I want it. And from there, I take it to my tester group, and they test the pattern for me. This is for WardRobeByMe, where I sell the patterns. And they have their comments. They're, maybe have suggestions for small changes or add-ons to make the pattern more desirable for the customer, and that's sort of the process.
And your tester group, are these people that are local to you, or is that sort of part of your customer group?
They're not local.
Okay.
It's all done online. It's all
Right.
done via Facebook. I call for testers, and I have, people apply. Sometimes 15, 20, 25 people apply to join a test.
Yeah.
Show it up in all sizes, and they take pictures of themselves, and yeah, they're very generous with their time and their themselves and their sewing skills.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's unbelievable to think how far we've come with the advent of the internet and tools like Facebook and Etsy. I mean, it's great that you can find those people today.
Exactly.
And it works.
I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what their motivation is. Why do they want to do this?
Right.
And they do it because they feel like they're doing something important, and they feel like they're part of a community of people that are passionate about sewing.
Right.
And it's quite interesting to all the people I've met through this pattern testing is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you have a Facebook group with over 1,200 users in it.
Yes.
Is that something that's sort of been building over time, or
Actually, it's been the group. I opened the group about a year ago, and it was one of my testers. I had my Facebook page, and she said to me, "You need to open a group because that way people can talk about the patterns and feel comfortable about it without sharing it with everybody on their own page, or everybody just walking in there and looking on my page." And so I was like, well, okay, fine, we'll give it a shot. And now it's just growing really quickly, and I'm very surprised about it.
Yeah.
So it's a community where people, they post when they've bought a pattern, they post if they run into trouble, they post pictures of their finished product. They ask me, do you want to design this pattern for me, or are you going to make this in plus sizes? So it's a very lively community.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And what would you say you enjoy most about all of this, right? Is it the, meeting with customers? Is it the creativity of designing? What do you really enjoy most about what you do?
The journey of Wardrobe by Me, the most surprising and most fun aspect has been meeting all these amazing women that sew for themselves because they love it. And then they participate, some of them participate in the tests, and they actually pose as models, even though they're not models. They're just normal women.
Right.
And they're incredibly proud of what they do. And I see from the first time they've tested and they have shared their pictures, very insecurity, feeling very not comfortable at all showing a picture. And then maybe 6 or 8 months down the line, after participating in many tests and learning a lot about photography, all of a sudden these ordinary women pose and look amazing and are so proud of themselves and are comfortable in their own bodies. That's the most amazing thing and the most rewarding thing.
Right. And I think it's interesting that you bring it up, because I think today there's a huge void in ready-made fashion for things that fit, the average person. A lot of this stuff is just, it's made for a certain type, and that's just not reflective of the world as of today. So I'd like to ask you, when you look at your users, your testers, your customers, is the motivation, do you think, is it more or less, hey, I really like to make and create things, or is it, I can't find what I want in the marketplace and I need something that is going to be a good fit for me? I mean, can you describe for me what you think that motivation really is?
Actually, yes, I can, because I just asked my group that question. Why do you do this? Why do you sew? Why do you passionately share this with the world? And I think it falls into a couple of different categories, because some do it because they want to have a hobby and they want to learn a set of skills that they can keep getting better at. And some feel like this is a creative output. So they buy a pattern and then they create it and make it their own. They like to wear clothing that other people admire and say, wow, I love that dress. And they can say, I made it. And then there's a small group also that do it because it's a cheaper way of getting clothing.
Right.
And then there's a final, and I think that's actually the majority. They say my body is weird. I have large hips. I'm tall. I have plus sizes. I have very large breasts, and it doesn't fit my very tiny frame.
Right.
And a lot of women with bodies outside of the ready-to-wear norm core sizing, they make their own clothing to get really well-fitting clothing.
Right. Yeah. So it's a little bit of everything, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just opened the thread last night, actually, in my Facebook group. So it's a little bit funny you're asking. They keep rolling in with different answers, and I think we've only scratched the surface of this, but many different reasons. And I think sewing as a hobby is huge in America right now.
Really? I mean, it's interesting that you say that, just because fashion is so cheap these days, especially over the last decade or so.
Yes.
Prices just keep falling. And so I'm also surprised to see the number of people that still have an interest in making their own stuff. But I think you hit the nail on the head, and that it's a lot of different reasons, why people are doing it.
Right.
What advice would you give to someone else, maybe a young person just coming out of school who's considering this for a career? What would you tell them, sort of knowing what you know today?
Are you thinking in terms of being a pattern maker, or in terms of making patterns for the home sewing segment?
I would say more in the broader view, right? So they're interested in pattern making, or they're interested in fashion and they want a career in it. Mm-hmm. Whether that's working for themselves or working for a large company. Sort of what nuggets of knowledge would you pass on to that person?
Of course, be good at what you do. That's a really important thing. And if you feel like you're a better designer than you're a pattern maker, then focus on being a great designer, and let somebody else do the pattern making, and vice versa.
Right.
But if you work in a large company as a pattern maker or a designer, the biggest challenge for me when I did this was that I would take ownership of every single pattern or design I did. And it took me a long while to learn to make a pattern and then let it live in the community rather than let it be a part of me.
Right.
Because you will be critiqued a lot. People will say, wow, that looks like whatever, or that fit is horrible, or look at her, she looks like an idiot in that dress. Or so you have to learn to make a prototype and then be critical of your own work like you would be of somebody else's work, and not let it bother you that you're not the best every time the first time you make a pattern.
Right.
If I make 100 patterns, 2 of them will be perfect in the first pattern.
Right.
The other 98 need work.
That's funny. I actually talked about that in a recent blog post, right? My advice was just assume the first 3 are going to be horrible.
Yes.
Then if you get it right on the first try, you're really happy.
Yes.
So that brings me to another question, though. So, you've done sort of both. You've worked for large companies and you've worked for yourself. When you're working for yourself, your feedback is going to come from the community. How do you keep yourself honest when, it's not your boss, or it's not, the company that pays you saying, hey, these are the things you need to change, when it's the community and you're the ultimate, arbiter of what changes and what stays the same? How do you stay true and stay focused on, giving people what they want?
Well, that's the biggest challenge, because when I started making WardRobeByMe patterns, I thought this is going to be an easy job for me because this is my biggest strength is making patterns. It takes me 5 minutes to make a pattern, but as the time has progressed, I use maybe 5% of my time making patterns, and the rest of the time is spent communicating online, social media, writing blog posts, talking to people.
Right.
And that's just maybe that when you work for a big company, your boss is your biggest fear. But when you own your own company and you're selling your goods like I am, the customers are my biggest fear, because if a pattern doesn't sell, then I have spent, maybe 50 hours developing a pattern and layouting it and making pictures and talking of everything I do about the pattern. And if it doesn't sell, that money is gone, because I don't make any money until I start selling a pattern.
Right.
So if it doesn't sell, I don't make any money. The customers decide.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I guess, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Sort of, what are your end goals for Wardrobe by Me?
I'm hoping in 5 years that Wardrobe by Me will be where I make my money. And because right now I make my money working for fashion companies, making patterns and making lines and developing designs and so forth. But at this point, Wardrobe by Me is not in any way making enough money that I can take anything out.
Right.
It only just supports that I can buy the fabric, and I can buy a little bit of help for example, CEO, and I can buy the platform where I host my web shop and so forth, but no money coming out of it. So in 5 years, Wardrobe by Me supports me, I hope.
And have you thought about what are the steps that you need to achieve to get to that point? Do you have sort of a clear idea of, I need to hit this goal and this goal and this goal to be able to do that?
I think, but this is more of a business point of view than anything to do with selling patterns. In order to make money, you have to be willing to invest money, because you can't do everything at a really slow pace. I'm at a point now where I have like 35 patterns in my shop, and I could keep on releasing new patterns over and over again, but unless I really start marketing my brand and being serious about communicating my brand values and so forth,
right,
I don't think I'm going to be able to make any money. So the next big thing is marketing, branding, and really moving forward with something that I have absolutely no experience with. But that's the way it is. Yeah.
And do you think you'll do that yourself, or would you potentially outsource some of those business roles or marketing roles?
I need to outsource it.
Yeah.
I need to. I can't wear any more caps. I can't be both the designer and the pattern maker and the graphic designer for the patterns and the social media expert, and no more caps for me. So
Right.
I have to have enough money that somebody else can do the branding for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I guess taking that next step would be, setting aside a certain amount of funds in the bank, and then saying, okay, maybe you have a person in mind, or you just have a budget, and knowing sort of the role that person's going to take on.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the next step, and it's a big one. I hopefully within the next 6 months will be able to do something serious about it.
And so I have one last question for you. In talking about that, and I think this is good for a lot of people to hear, but, if you work in the industry and you're working for a company, you get to do pattern making day in and day out. But when you own your own business, you're doing everything. And like you said, you may only spend 10% of your time working on the actual pattern drafting. The rest of the time it's marketing, it's customers, it's filling orders, it's hiring and firing, and and I think you've dipped your toes in the water, so you kind of know what you're getting into. Are you still passionate? Are you still think that this is the right way to go, and this is really what you want to do? Sort of knowing what the future holds as far as what your work is moving forward.
Yes, I think so, because I've been doing this pattern making for so many years now that it's interesting to start using some of all the other skills I've collected over the years, and sort of implementing them and see if I can turn my career passion into something that I can make a real living from, not just selling one pattern at a time for a fashion company and
Right.
somebody else telling me I want this dress or I want, so this, yeah, definitely. I will continue, and I like the many roles. It's very interesting.
And I guess your motivation, is it to control your own destiny as far as what you're doing and what you're creating? What's the real underlying motivation inside you to branch out on your own?
When I opened Wardrobe by Me, I've been working. I've been self-employed for the past 6 years, where I work as a consultant freelancing for many different fashion brands in Denmark. And my biggest issue is that the market is really busy twice a year. I'm really busy in the fall, and I'm really busy in the spring. And
Right.
then I have some very dead periods in January, February, and again July, beginning of August. Nothing happens.
Right.
And so my motivation was, I'm going to do something where I can decide when I'm going to and what I'm going to fill into that time, and not be stressed about not having any income in those
Right.
periods. So that was my initial motivation. And I think that's going to carry me into the next stage, where I can start, maybe slowing down on my other customers and then turning up. Wardrobe by Me is the fact that I can spread my work out over a year, rather than work like crazy for 3 months and
Right.
then nothing, and then crazy again for 3 months.
Right.
Because that's the biggest issue, and the hardest thing about working in the fashion industry.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and I wish you the best of luck. I think you have a great plan, and it sounds like you've already figured out a lot of the things that you need to do. Your Facebook site seems to be doing amazing. I'll definitely include links to that.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so again, thank you so much. And
Welcome. It was fun talking to you.
all right.